Have you ever noticed some women walk into a room and men become completely captivated by them? Not because they're the loudest, not because they're the most beautiful, but because they know how to touch a man emotionally in a way he can't explain and can't forget. See, attraction is easy. Any woman can get attention. But emotional addiction, that's different. Because when a man becomes emotionally attached to you, he thinks about you when you're gone. He replays your conversations in his head. He starts craving your energy, your approval, your presence. And the scary part? Most women never realize there are psychological buttons that trigger this naturally. Tonight, I'm going to show you the 4 psychological buttons that make a man emotionally addicted to you without chasing him, begging for attention, or pretending to be someone you're not. And if you understand these, you'll never look at attraction the same way again. Most women think attraction is about giving more attention, more texting, more availability, more effort. But what if I told you the more available you become too quickly, the less emotionally valuable you often appear in a man's mind? See, human psychology has always worked in a very strange way. People chase what feels rare. They protect what feels valuable. And they become emotionally attached to things they fear losing. That's why scarcity is one of the most powerful psychological triggers in attraction. Now, let me be clear. Scarcity is not about playing childish games. It's not about ignoring someone for 3 days just to manipulate them. And it's definitely not about pretending not to care. Real scarcity is deeper than that. It's the energy of a woman who already has a full life. A woman who isn't desperately waiting for a text message to feel happy. A woman who has standards, purpose, friendships, passions, and emotional self-control. When a man feels that your life is already complete without him, something shifts psychologically, because now, instead of feeling like you need him, he feels the need to earn a place in your world. And that changes everything. You see, men are naturally drawn toward challenge and emotional reward, not toxic difficulty, not drama, but meaningful pursuit. If a man feels he already has all of your attention within the first few days, his brain stops feeling curiosity. There's no mystery left, no emotional tension, no excitement in discovering you layer by layer. But when you maintain your own rhythm in life, when you don't instantly drop everything for him, you communicate something incredibly attractive without even speaking. My life matters too. That energy is powerful. Because emotionally healthy men don't actually want a woman whose entire identity revolves around them. At first, it may flatter their ego, but over time, it creates pressure, emotional heaviness, and eventually, boredom. What keeps attraction alive is individuality. The woman who has goals, the woman who disappears sometimes because she's busy building her own future, the woman who enjoys him without making him the center of her universe. That woman becomes unforgettable. And here's where most people misunderstand scarcity. Scarcity is not silence. Scarcity is emotional balance. You can be warm without being constantly available. You can show interest without over-persuading. You can care deeply while still protecting your time, your energy, and your standards. That balance creates emotional tension. And emotional tension is what makes someone think about you when you're not around. Think about it. Why do some people stay stuck in our minds? It's usually because there's unfinished emotional energy, curiosity, mystery, anticipation. Brain becomes obsessed with what it hasn't fully figured out yet. That's why the woman who reveals everything immediately often loses emotional impact quickly. But the woman who unfolds naturally over time keeps a man emotionally invested because now he's discovering you instead of consuming you all at once. And discovery is addictive. Another reason scarcity works is because it activates respect. When you constantly overgive your time to someone who hasn't earned it yet, you unintentionally teach them that your attention comes cheaply. But when you value your own time, other people begin valuing it too. This is true in relationships, business, friendships, everywhere. People psychologically associate value with selectiveness. The woman who can say, "I'd love to, but I already have plans," immediately communicates confidence and self-respect, not arrogance, not manipulation, just self-worth. And self-worth is magnetic because deep down, everyone wants to be chosen by someone who had options. Now, let's talk about something important. Scarcity also protects you emotionally. Many women become emotionally attached too quickly because they overinvest before a man has proven consistency. They build fantasies. They prioritize him too early. They emotionally commit before trust has been earned. And when he pulls away, they feel devastated because they built their emotional world around potential instead of reality. But scarcity slows things down. It allows connection to develop naturally. Instead of asking, "How do I make him stay?" you begin asking, "Does this man truly deserve access to my life?" That mindset shift changes your entire energy because now you're no longer operating from fear of loss, you're operating from confidence and discernment. And ironically, that's what makes a man pursue harder. Men can feel desperation. They can feel when a woman is afraid to lose them. And although they may enjoy the attention temporarily, desperation rarely creates long-term attraction. Confidence does. A woman who enjoys a man but does not emotionally collapse without him creates emotional intrigue. She feels emotionally stable, grounded, secure, and security is rare today. That rarity alone makes her stand out. Now, here's the biggest mistake women make with this principle. They hear scarcity and think they need to become cold, distant, or emotionally unavailable. No, the goal is not to become emotionally unavailable. The goal is to become emotionally valuable. There's a huge difference. Emotionally unavailable people create confusion and pain. Emotionally valuable people create appreciation. One pushes people away, the other inspires people to come closer. So instead of trying to act hard to get, focus on building a life that genuinely makes you hard to replace. Develop your passions, protect your peace, build your confidence, strengthen your standards, fall in love with your own future. Because the most attractive woman in the room is rarely the one screaming for attention. It's usually the woman who knows her worth without needing to announce it. The woman whose energy says, "I like you, but I also love my life." And the moment a man feels that moment, he realizes your attention is meaningful, earned, and not easily given away. That's when emotional attraction begins turning into emotional addiction. One of the biggest lies people believe about attraction is that consistency alone keeps passion alive. It doesn't. Comfort matters. Trust matters. Stability matters. But emotional excitement that comes from unpredictability. And I'm not talking about toxic chaos. I'm not talking about manipulation, drama, or making someone feel emotionally unsafe. I'm talking about emotional variety, because the human brain is wired to respond to contrast. We notice what changes. We remember what surprises us. And emotionally, we become attached to experiences that make us feel something intense and unexpected. That's why the emotional roller coaster effect is so powerful in attraction. Think about the relationships people obsess over the most. It's usually not the ones that felt flat and predictable from the beginning. It's the ones that created emotional highs, curiosity, excitement, anticipation, and moments they couldn't stop replaying in their mind. Emotion creates memory, and memory creates attachment. A woman who knows how to create emotional variety becomes unforgettable because she breaks routine. She doesn't feel robotic. She doesn't make every interaction emotionally identical. One moment she's playful, the next moment she's deep and thoughtful. Sometimes she's teasing, sometimes she's calm and mysterious. That emotional movement keeps a man mentally engaged because attraction dies in monotony. When a man can predict every reaction, every message, every emotional response, his brain stops feeling stimulated. There's no anticipation anymore. And anticipation is one of the strongest emotional addictions humans experience. It's the reason people constantly check their phones waiting for a message. The reason suspenseful movies keep us glued to the screen. The reasons uncertainty can make someone think about another person all day. The brain loves emotional reward when it's not fully guaranteed. Now notice something important. The women men often become deeply attached to are not always the perfect women. They're the women who made them feel emotionally alive. That's a huge difference, because attraction is emotional before it's logical. A man may logically admire someone, but emotional addiction happens when interactions start affecting his mood, thoughts, imagination, and emotional state throughout the day. And emotional variation creates exactly that. For example, imagine two conversations. In the first conversation, the woman responds exactly how you expect every single time. She's nice, agreeable, predictable, available, and emotionally flat. Nothing is wrong with her, but nothing emotionally grabs you either. Now imagine another woman. She's warm, but not desperate. Confident, but playful. Sometimes she challenges you. Sometimes she surprises you with vulnerability. She laughs unexpectedly. She changes the emotional energy of the room. That woman creates emotional movement, and movement creates emotional impact. The problem is that many people confuse emotional consistency with emotional repetition. Healthy attraction needs emotional safety, yes, but it also needs novelty. Without novelty, relationships slowly become emotionally numb. This is why humor is so powerful in attraction. Humor instantly changes emotional states. It creates surprise. It creates unpredictability. It interrupts emotional flatness. A playful woman can shift a man's emotions within seconds, and that emotional shift becomes memorable. The same thing happens with spontaneity. Sometimes it's not even about grand gestures. Sometimes it's the unexpected voice note, the teasing comment, the sudden deep conversation at midnight, the random confidence in your eye contact, the moment you walk away smiling instead of needing reassurance. Tiny emotional surprises create huge emotional impressions. And here's something fascinating about human psychology. The brain releases stronger emotional responses when rewards are inconsistent. This is why people become addicted to social media notifications, gambling, and unpredictable rewards. The uncertainty itself creates anticipation. Now, in relationships, this doesn't mean becoming manipulative or emotionally unstable. It means avoiding emotional overexposure. When every emotion, every thought, every detail is constantly available, the mystery disappears. But when interactions have rhythm, closeness mixed with space, warmth mixed with independence, playfulness mixed with calmness, attraction stays alive. Because now the emotional experience feels dynamic instead of repetitive, and dynamic energy is magnetic. Another important part of the emotional roller coaster effect is emotional depth. Most conversations stay on the surface. How was your day? What are you doing? What did you eat? Surface level interactions rarely create emotional addiction, but emotional depth does. The moment a conversation shifts from ordinary to emotionally meaningful, something changes psychologically. People remember how you made them feel. The woman who can move effortlessly between fun energy and deep emotional connection creates a stronger imprint in a man's mind. because now he associates her with multiple emotional experiences instead of just one. She becomes emotionally multidimensional. And multidimensional people are harder to forget. Now, let's talk about emotional pacing. One reason attraction fades quickly is because some people emotionally sprint at the beginning. They give maximum emotional energy immediately. Maxing texting, maxing attention, maxing intensity. But when everything peaks too fast, there's nowhere left for the emotional experience to grow. Healthy attraction builds in layers. Curiosity first, then comfort, then excitement, then emotional trust. That gradual unfolding keeps emotional energy alive longer. Think of it like music. A song that stays at maximum volume the entire time becomes exhausting. But songs with emotional highs and lows keep people engaged. Attraction works the same way. Emotion needs rhythm. And the women who naturally create this rhythm often don't even realize how attractive they are because their energy feels alive. They're emotionally present. They're expressive. They're playful when the moment calls for it. Calm when necessary. Confident without trying too hard. That emotional flexibility creates fascination. Now, does this mean you should perform or act fake? Absolutely not. The emotional roller coaster effect only works when it's authentic. Forced behavior feels exhausting. Authentic emotional energy feels natural. The goal is not to become emotionally confusing. The goal is to stop becoming emotionally predictable. There's a difference. Predictability removes curiosity, but emotional authenticity with variety creates connection. And at the end of the day, men don't become emotionally addicted because a woman was perfect. They become addicted because being around her felt emotionally different from everyone else. She made ordinary moments feel exciting, simple conversations feel memorable, silence feel intimate, playfulness feel electric. She awakened emotions instead of just seeking attention. And once someone consistently connects your presence with emotional intensity, excitement, curiosity, and emotional movement, they stop simply liking you. They start craving the experience of you. One of the fastest ways to destroy attraction is to make a man feel like he has already completely secured your approval before he has truly earned it. And most women don't even realize they're doing this. They overpraise him too quickly, over-text him, over-explain themselves, over-give attention, over-reassure him. The entire connection becomes emotionally one-sided without balance. Now, let's be clear. Appreciation is healthy. Affection is healthy. Showing interest is healthy. But constant validation without emotional investment from the other person creates a dangerous psychological imbalance because human beings naturally value what they work for emotionally. When something is handed to us too easily, our brain slowly stops recognizing its value. That's why the validation withdrawal trigger is so powerful. Not because it manipulates men, but because it restores emotional balance. You see, many women unknowingly make a man the center of the emotional experience too early. Every compliment goes toward him. Every conversation revolves around pleasing him. Every interaction becomes an attempt to gain his approval. But attraction changes the moment you stop trying so hard to convince someone of your value. The moment you stop over-validating him, something interesting happens psychologically. He begins seeking validation from you. And the reason is simple. People become emotionally attached to sources of approval they haven't fully secured yet. Think about it. Why do people work harder for the respect of someone they admire? Why does praise from certain people feel more meaningful than praise from everyone else? Because selective validation feels valuable. When approval is constant and automatic, it loses emotional weight. But when approval is earned, it becomes emotionally addictive. That's why emotionally high-value women don't hand out endless validation in the beginning. Not because they're cold, not because they're arrogant, but because they understand emotional investment must flow both ways. If a man hasn't consistently shown effort, emotional maturity, and genuine interest, why should he already receive the full emotional rewards of your attention? This is where so many women accidentally sabotage attraction. They meet a man they like and immediately begin proving themselves. They become overly available. They constantly compliment him. They seek reassurance. They prioritize his feelings over their own standards. And slowly, the dynamic shifts. Instead of the man feeling excited to win her over, he feels emotionally comfortable without needing to invest much at all. Comfort without investment often creates emotional laziness, and emotional laziness kills pursuit. Now notice something important. The validation withdrawal trigger is not about punishing a man. It's about reclaiming your emotional power. There's a huge difference. A woman who constantly seeks validation from men unconsciously gives away control of her emotional state. Her mood depends on his texts, his attention, his compliments, his approval. And when a man senses that, the attraction often weakens. Not because he dislikes her, but because emotional certainty arrived too early. Mystery disappears. Challenge disappears. Curiosity disappears. But when a woman values herself enough to stop chasing validation, she immediately becomes more emotionally intriguing. Because now the man has questions in his mind. How does she really feel about me? Did I impress her? Why do I suddenly care about her opinion so much? And those questions create emotional engagement. People think emotional addiction comes from receiving non-stop attention. Actually, emotional addiction often comes from wanting emotional confirmation that feels just out of reach. Not impossible, not toxic, just not guaranteed. This is why selective praise is incredibly powerful. When a woman compliments a man constantly for everything, eventually the compliments lose meaning. But when she gives genuine appreciation at the right moments, it hits differently, because now her approval feels earned. And earned approval creates emotional impact. You see, men are deeply affected by respect and recognition from women they admire. But the recognition only feels powerful when it isn't automatic. A compliment from someone who praises everyone feels ordinary. A compliment from someone selective feels unforgettable. That's human psychology. Another important part of this trigger is emotional self-control. Most people react impulsively in attraction. The moment they feel interest, they reveal everything, every feeling, every insecurity, every emotional dependency. But emotional self-control creates attraction because it signals confidence. A woman who can enjoy connection without emotionally overflowing everywhere feels emotionally grounded. And grounded energy is rare. She's not panicking if a text takes time. She's not desperately fishing for reassurance. She's not trying to constantly prove her worth. That calmness creates emotional tension because it forces the other person to lean in emotionally. And this is exactly where many men start becoming more attached, because suddenly they are the ones seeking emotional certainty. Now, let's talk about attention. Attention is emotional currency. And if you constantly give unlimited attention to someone regardless of their behavior, your attention loses perceived value. But when your attention becomes connected to genuine effort, respect, consistency, and emotional investment, it becomes psychologically rewarding. This doesn't mean becoming manipulative or distant. It simply means your energy should not be available at full intensity to someone who hasn't shown they deserve it. That's self-respect. And self-respect changes attraction dramatically Because emotionally healthy men admire women who value themselves, not women who throw endless emotional energy at anyone who shows temporary interest. There's also another hidden truth here. When you stop over-validating a man, you begin observing him more clearly. Instead of being consumed by trying to impress him, you start asking important questions. Is he emotionally mature? Is he consistent? Does he respect my boundaries? Does he truly deserve deeper access to my life? That shift is powerful because now attraction becomes mutual evaluation instead of emotional desperation. And ironically, that mindset often increases attraction even more. Why? Because confidence is magnetic. The woman who knows she is valuable does not beg to be chosen. She allows connection to unfold naturally while maintaining her standards. And standards create emotional respect. Now, of course, this does not mean becoming emotionally cold. Some people misunderstand this completely and start acting detached, arrogant, or emotionally unavailable. That's not attractive either. The goal is emotional balance, warmth without desperation, interest without over-pursuit, affection without losing self-respect. That combination is incredibly powerful because now your validation feels meaningful instead of automatic. And when a man realizes your approval actually matters to him emotionally, when he notices himself thinking about your opinion, your reactions, your attention, that's when emotional investment starts growing deeper. Because people don't become emotionally attached to what is endlessly handed to them. They become attached to what feels valuable, intentional, and emotionally earned.